reference that. I'm sure you probably perused it a little bit, but we have grades 6, 7, 8, 9, the curriculum outlines as well as the curriculum guides. And it's a complete document for all the grades as well as the scope and sequence for the middle school and my PowerPoint as well. So I'm only going to show you snapshots just to give you an overview. And then, of course, we're going to go into the textbook adoption that we're looking for the 9th grade. So beginning in October of 2014, myself, Mr. Cuff, the middle school principal, Mr. Brown, who is our science coordinator for the high school, and Mr. Roof, back here, is our science coordinator for middle school. We all sat down and we had many discussions about our curriculum, in particular because of our scores, our Keystone exam scores, as well as our middle school PSSA scores for the 8th grade. In particular with the middle school, I'm not sure if you're aware, but over the past 7 years, the scores have been stagnant. We're at about 55% proficiency. We're pretty much in line with the state, but is that really enough? And it's really not. We need to show growth, and we haven't shown growth. So, therefore, we looked at what the curriculum needs to be. Currently, just so you know, in grade 6, we have environmental science, in grade 7, life science, and in grade 8, it's physical science. When I spoke to Dr. Baumann from the Pennsylvania Department of Ed, he oversees the science curriculum area for the PDE, he provided this scope and sequence to us. If you see the color-coded copy, I'll refer to that a few times, and that's also in your zip file. But that information right there, just to provide an overview, it's not broken out by grade level. It almost looks like the left column is 6th grade and 7th and 8th grades. Those are all of the areas of science that need to be taught in grade 6, 7, and 8. So that's what we had to realign for the middle school. So currently, when you look at our 6th grade curriculum, which I'll show you in a minute, all of those areas will be highlighted in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. So I'm going to go through that quickly. So that's a major change from what we're doing. And then physical science was moved into the 9th grade curriculum. So if you go to the next page for me, Anne, thank you. If you take a look at this, it's just an overview of what we needed to do. So 6th grade should show examples of physical science, which is chemistry and physics, life science, and earth and space science, as well as 7th and 8th grade. The nature of science is basically about inquiry and teaching our students how to think like scientists. That should be in all science areas, all science curriculum, K to 12 actually. Okay? So the goal obviously is to prepare our students for the 8th grade science exam. I want you to know also, we referenced Dr. Baumann, but as well as the academic standards for science and technology and engineering for elementary as well as secondary. So in the secondary piece comes in with 9th grade. So that was the basis of our alignment with our curriculum. Then if we go to 9th grade, I wanted you to see that we had discussions also with our 9th grade curriculum. We looked at basically our keystone testing and our Pennsylvania state standards. Our goal is to prepare our students for science in grades 10, 11, and 12. Provide all high school students with exposure to physical science. At the high school level currently, not all of our students receive a physical science course, which is very important because that provides a foundation for the following science courses throughout their 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year. It improves student success in biology and chemistry, this course, and it also hopefully will assist in improving our Keystone test scores in biology. Okay? So the next slide. That's a snapshot of what you have in front of you. I'm going to reference that. All of those sections, physical science, life science, and earth and space science, need to be in the 6th grade curriculum, the 7th grade curriculum, the 8th grade curriculum, with the nature of science throughout. So when I go to the next slide, Anne, thank you. You're going to notice a snapshot of 6th grade. Whoops. It's okay. Okay. Notice the box is highlighted. I know it's hard to see, but you have this in your zip file. The purple area represents the unifying themes that all of the grade levels should have, which is actually providing our students with a higher order thinking skill. You go to the next section. The green area is showing the life science within the 6th grade curriculum. Okay, and then obviously the purple area, the blue area, is the physical science area of the 6th grade curriculum. And when you look at your documents, you'll see that throughout the entire curriculum guide, they're all highlighted to show the 3 areas of science that are covered now. So if we go on to the 7th grade page, it shows the life science for 7th grade that are covered. Then it shows earth and space. And then the nature, the unifying themes for the nature, not nature science. The unifying themes. And then 8th grade, the same thing. I don't want to be redundant, but I just wanted to give you examples, okay? And the last page is our 9th grade curriculum. Again, it's a snapshot. You all have this information in your folders. And this is the curriculum guide that we followed throughout the entire process for all the grade levels. And it shows you just a snapshot of our physical science course and everything that we wrote, actually they wrote as a group, as far as what needs to be in the course. I don't know if you have any questions before we move on, because all of the documentation is actually in the zip folder. I didn't want to provide a ton of papers to you, but so that we actually met in the summer of 2015 last year, and we met in groups, middle school groups and 9th grade and 8th grade high school groups got together and we created these the curriculum documents that you see that I provided to you. And they spent several days writing the curriculum. And eventually with 9th grade, we're going to present the textbook adoption. We didn't actually look at the textbook until we wrote the curriculum. So far, everything seems to be in line with the state. I've gotten feedback, and everything seems to be good. I just wanted you to know that as well as our teacher certifications. So all that has been approved by the state, curriculum as well as the teacher certifications. Do you have any questions as far as what we've done over the past 2 years with the curriculum realignment? No? Okay. So then for next board meeting, the end of the month, we wanted to ask the board to go ahead and approve this curriculum adoption grades 6 through 9 with it being implemented in the fall of 2015-16 school year. 2016-17 school year. Excuse me. Okay? No questions? Well, so, that being said, if you take a look at your book textbook in front of you, the next presentation, and a cost proposal is provided as well, which is a detailed cost analysis of the textbook. Mr. Brown is actually going to present this information because he really worked very closely with the teachers and provide you some information on why they chose to look at this textbook series in lieu of 2 other textbook series. So, Mr. Brown?
So as Mr. Vitro mentioned, it was a committee of the 8th grade teachers, some of the chemistry teachers, and the physics teachers worked collaboratively to develop the curriculum based on physical science, incorporated chemistry and physics at the high school. We can go to the next slide. So we called in 3 textbook companies. We worked with Pearson, Elenco, and Holt, and we reviewed all of them. We had the teachers and the committee fill out their review of the textbook, and then as part of that review, we grouped all that information, and then myself and Mr. Vitro looked it over, and we went back to the textbook companies. We had the top 2 come in for presentations to the staff, and then from there, we went ahead and selected the Pearson book that you have on the table in front of you was our number 1 choice. Next slide, please. We selected that book primarily because it matched the curriculum that we had developed based on what we felt was the needs of our school district and our students. Right? We thought that the curriculum writing first and then matching the book was the best way to go instead of just following merely the chapters in a book. We also liked the fact that it had excellent web-based elements to the book. Many activities in the book are tied back to the internet so that the kids can go be doing an activity and then go and utilize the online resources. We also like the fact that the remediation and enrichment are incorporated right into the book as well as the online classroom that is provided with the series. We also really appreciated the fact that all of the materials that come with the book are included in the technology package, so when the teachers, instead of just running off a mere master, they can edit those to match what it is that they're teaching in a classroom as far as content. Next slide, please. As far as the resources that come with the book, We like the fact that all of the resources were guided. Okay, the teachers can edit them and adapt them for the pacing that are going along with the classes and the activities that they need to do in order to present the curriculum. We looked at the fact that everything provided is study worksheets and to engage the readers. So as they're going through the class, you can, let's say, have a class of higher readers, you can have a higher level reading activity. Or we have some lower readers, we can do that, or we can break the classes into groups to be able to accommodate that type of information. We like the fact that there were vocabulary reviews in the textbook, and the book comes with graphic organizers to be able to assist our learners in preparing for, let's say, assessments or in-class materials. We also like the fact that there is a visual lab that comes with the series. So as the teacher is preparing to do the lesson, they can present on a screen a virtual lab and have a demonstration of what the concepts are that we're looking to cover in class that day, or use it as a wrap-up day to what the content was or the lesson was. Within the technology package is the Pearson Success Net, and it's an online classroom. The teacher would establish and develop a class for each section that they're teaching, and then input the students into those sections. Then once they've developed their classes, they can go ahead and assign readings, they can assign activities, they can assign vocabulary, they can assign section reviews, and then in that online classroom, we'll evaluate them and let the teachers know how the students are doing on that particular content. Pearson will be providing initial kickoff staff training in June, a 3-hour staff training where they will be coming in the in-service days at the end of the school year and letting our staff know exactly how to implement the materials that we have. Next slide, please. Material also covers, and another reason we like the book is it already incorporates the Common Core standards as well as the next generation science standards. So the book is completely aligned to what's most up to date, and as those updates continue to change or need to be updated, we will be receiving periodic emails from the textbook company to let us know as the standards change, how the materials in the book can be re-altered or readjusted for what we're doing inside our classrooms. As far as differentiated instruction, each chapter in the textbook, next slide please. Each chapter in the textbook begins with an activity geared towards developing one or more 21st century science skills. We thought that was very important as we move forward in trying to develop and incorporate STEM into our education at the high school. Each activity also, there's inquiry activities as well as enrichment activities built in, as well as quick labs that can be done at any time by the teachers in order to reinforce any of the concepts we're teaching. The teaching ancillaries that come with the book are divided into A and B versions. The A versions being slightly higher level, and B versions being, which we use with your average class, but it provides the ability to adapt to whatever it is that you're doing in class at any particular time. And those versions are also in a technology package, so the teachers can edit those as well. As far as cost to the school district, the cost that we were going to work out with the publisher is $37,000, almost $38,000, and with that would be 310 print editions. That would be enough classroom sets for 9 of our classrooms, which would include the high school, a learning support classroom at the high school, as well as 1 classroom at EAA. The publisher is going to provide, we're going to purchase 150 digital access codes so that every student has digital access to all the materials I just discussed, and then they're providing with us with an additional 150 access codes. So every student at the high school or all the programs, whether it be EAA or the learning support classrooms, would have access to that digital material. It would provide the virtual science lab and all of the teacher resources to us. In addition to those 310 that I mentioned in the classrooms, there will also be a number of books in the high school for those students who do not have access to the internet. We will be able to sign books out to them in any of those classrooms. Up on the screen is how we plan on paying for this, is with high school Title I school improvement funds, as well as Title I K-12 funds.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Brown or myself as far as the textbook series and information about the cost?
I like the visual lab. I like the lab, the component of it. I think that's really important.
I just have a question. On the digital lab, because I took a biology course, which is very similar. Phenomenal way to learn. Is the PDF of the textbook actually within the digital realm
Yes,
as well?
yes.
Okay. That's helpful, that's why.
Yeah. So I have to let you know that the original cost was 60,000, and we bargained and begged and stole, or whatever you want to call it, got it down to 37. So we really worked over the textbook company. So I think Jim did a great job with his people. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
I have a few brief updates this evening from the elementary level. One, I wanted to just make you aware, and again, I provided all of this to you in your briefing, but we did have the STEM challenge that I mentioned a few weeks back. That took place last week or 2 weekends ago. We sent a number of teams to that, and while they were not successful moving on to the next level of competition, they all had a tremendous learning experience. They saw what they can do next year to improve upon that. They're excited about going back, and they did extremely well for their first go around. So certainly not marked by the fact that they are or are not moving on. They had a tremendous learning opportunity and experience, and look forward to doing it again. You also are most likely aware that we received a pre-K counts grant, and I'm pleased to announce that that is up and functioning at March Elementary School with a partnership with the Lehigh Valley Children's Center, and that operation can service 19 of our students in the pre-K program, so we're very pleased about that as well. That is a perpetual agreement as long as the funding continues to come from the state, and we have children in need of such a service, so we're pleased with that. To Thursday, I almost broke out with a song. Thursday, we are meeting with members from the state for the Key Student to Opportunity Grant. We are also being considered a recipient of either a first or second place award for part of our Keystone to Opportunity initiative in our work. With that, our award will be focused on our transition planning, and I really have to extend a huge thank you to many partners. We partner with our community partners, as well as in district, our teachers in district, and Heather Yardell has been really tremendous in keeping all of this organized and up and going. So on Thursday, we are meeting with those representatives, presenting our platform that we then have to take to a conference in June, where we will find out whether we were the first or second place recipient of that award. And the last thing I wanted to report on quickly is kindergarten registration. We did finish that formal process last Friday, and our efforts to publicize this year really paid off. We had an extremely well-attended registration opportunities for children. We had, for example, at Cheston School, over 80 students register already. And while we expect more, that number at this time of the year is usually in that 50 to 60 range. So same thing held true at Paxnos and some of our other schools. The elementary school had record highs coming through. So we're really pleased that we seem to be catching most of our incoming kindergartners early this year. And the schools all said that went off without a hitch. There are lots of partners involved in that as well. We look forward to our new crop of kindergartners coming in the fall. That's really all I have to present on tonight. Any questions? Thank you.
The public to be heard, academic issues? Saying no, okay. Well, now,
I would just like to ask that if we can possibly know, we had a little email as far as the presentation for the PTA, as far as detracting.
Yes.
Is that something that we could possibly get presented to the board? I understand there's been some changes as far as the timing on it and things like that, so can we have that presented to us possibly?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or even if it's at the full meeting, something?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We had a presentation about K-12 update by Mrs. Beecher and Ms. Piazza. and looking forward to seeing our new textbooks. And we are going to next time have a vote. I would like to put on the agenda for the board to approve your curriculum for the 16-17 school year for the science books and curriculum. And we also were asked to have on the next committee meeting a presentation about the tracking. Sorry. And I guess that's it.
Okay, we move on to policy.
Thank you. We will begin with Ms. Neely, who will present to us on searches.
Before you this evening is the policy 226 search policy. You should have, as you came in this evening, received a second copy because the one that was on board docs has since been revised since initial publication of the agenda. So the hard copy that you received this evening would be the one that I will go over this evening and we will replace the first one with. And we are, as an administration, not asking that this be moved to the full board for a vote at the March meeting, since you are just seeing this for the first time this evening. But we can certainly have discussion and then come back with it in April, and then ultimately then bring it before the board for approval at that time. So the policy that you received this evening, it starts out with just the purpose of searches being that if reasonable suspicion exists, then a search could take place, and that would be to look for items that would pose a threat to the health, safety, or welfare of the school population, or if there's evidence that there's been a violation of law, board policy, or school rules. So that really is the reason behind any search being conducted in a public school setting. In the delegation of responsibility, we outlined that the superintendent or designee, along with input from our solicitor, would develop guidelines and procedures that would guide us through the process of conducting searches, including who can conduct searches, when they can be conducted, and outlining the appropriate training that must take place for all of those individuals who would participate in such a process. When you get to page 2 of the document, it goes into the guidelines of searches. And this breaks out, in this section, multiple subsections, which outline the types of searches that can be conducted in a school setting. Those are delineated by the underlines and then further articulated underneath there. The individual reasonable suspicion searches, those are conducted when they're reasonable in relation to the nature of the suspected evidence, contraband, or dangerous material, and to the grounds for suspecting that it may be found in the place or thing being searched. Accordingly, the search of a student's outer clothing is reasonable if the object of the search is consistent with the concealment in coats, pants, shirts, or pockets. So this really just is specific to any type of individual reasonable suspicion search. We then go into the delineation of search of electronic devices. When an electronic device must be searched in order for it to be examined by school staff, we really are only able to isolate the object of the search. So there's an example contained in the policy that states, for example, if the object of the search is a text message, the search could only be confined to that function. So if an administrator were aware of text messaging that was occurring and they needed to search an electronic device, the only item that they could search was the text message in question. Nothing else on the phone would be able to be subject to search under law. Random or general searches without suspicion, those are conducted when there is a heightened suspicion of drug use or weapons in possession in the school building. So if we become aware that there's heightened suspicion, which is later defined in this subsection, when there's suspicion of weapons, for instance, when there are community strife or tensions or continuation of escalation from a prior incident, then a search could be conducted because of that heightened suspicion, and that would be a general search, not focused on an individual or an individual group of students.
That's designed to be minimally intrusive and planned only for the purpose of discovering the evidence that was in question. So if we were, if we were conducting such a search for the purpose of community strife and looking for weapons, that would be the purpose of that search. It would not be for other materials. Searches upon consent are articulated here, and really searches upon consent can be conducted at any time with or without reasonable suspicion if the student gives voluntary consent to the specific place being searched. So that's a small provision. And then also mentioning searches by or at the request of law enforcement officials. This is more strict because law enforcement is held to a higher threshold of probable cause, whereas when a search otherwise outlined in this policy is confined or is at the reason of reasonable suspicion. So law enforcement is held to a higher threshold, and in those circumstances, administration cooperates and can assist, but will kind of remain in the background of those searches, and law enforcement will conduct those. Locker inspections and searches are, what's important to remember is that lockers are and shall remain the property of the school and the school district, and to the extent that students have any expectation of privacy in their lockers, it's very limited. So this portion of the policy delineates the specifications that are related to the manner in which a locker may be searched. And anything prohibited on a student's person would also be considered prohibited if found in a locker. On page 5 of 6, it outlines searches of a person. And the board recognizes that searches of individual students would be conducted in the least intrusive manner possible to maintain the dignity of the student involved, but also while ensuring the safety and well-being of the school and its community. Stricter standards would apply to a reasonable suspicion search if the item that is being searched for presents a high level or immediate level of danger to the school population, more specifically talking about a weapon or a drug. And that is outlined in the numbers below, that when items that are being searched for would be concealed, when we're looking for a weapon or a drug, or but in the event that such a search must be conducted, parents and or police should be contacted, but that the search would not be delayed until their arrival if, in the judgment of the searcher, delay would cause unreasonable risk or harm of disposal of the object. So all searches that are mentioned should be conducted to the greatest extent possible by a person of the same gender as the student, also with another person of the same gender present, and then also in a room that is not, that assures privacy of the individual or of the student being searched. So those are all of the different types of searches that could take place. The final piece in the guidelines section talks about handling and disposal of items that are found in the course of searches, and any items or materials found in a search may be confiscated, and even if the item was not the original objective of the search or inspection, and that object may be maintained because it would need to be potentially turned over for a criminal charge or through a disciplinary matter, that would be inventoried and secured and properly disposed of, if not appropriate to be returned to the student. So I'll open this up for discussion, for questions. I know that this is one of the first times seeing this, and obviously it will take more readings in order to become more familiar and be able to pose questions. And we can certainly do that as we move forward through April. But after first reading, I just wanted to see if there were any initial questions or comments about the policy. Yeah.
I mean, it's a quick overview and looking
Sure.
at the one we got prior to this. My question just is, as we're going through this, some of it's new, so I just want to make sure the understanding of the difference between, say, school officials versus administration versus staff members. So I don't know if we need to possibly look at maybe more consistency of the naming of them and having an understanding of what that exactly means. Because when you think of a staff member versus the administration versus school officials could mean the police department, could be. So I just want to make sure that
That's definitely a good point. That would be something we need to include in the guidelines and procedures that are developed, but for a matter of consistency through the policy, I can go back and make sure that we
Yeah,
are more
just, and
consistent
so people
throughout.
also have an understanding of maybe
What that means.
That means.
Yep, absolutely.
Alyssa, looking at this, one thing I didn't see much of in here, except at one point, is notification like of the parents or the guardian or anything.
Okay.
And that maybe there should be a little bit more discussion of that, of when and how.
Sure.
And understanding, if you're, depending on the volatility of the situation, it's obviously going to be different.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, we've talked about that before.
Yep.
But I think that would be good to see. The other thing is, it talks here, in consultation with the district solicitor, shall develop guidelines and procedures. In a way, it might be good to know some of those, because sometimes when people come to the board meetings, they turn around and say, are you aware this is how it was handled? So maybe there ought to be a little bit more structure in there to give us an idea of how some things would be handled.
I agree with the procedural conversation. Procedure is what keeps folks safe on both sides. Again, it protects the rights of both the student who may particularly be being searched, it protects the administrator or the person who is doing that. So, guidelines should be very clear. Very clear.
The question I had, I guess it's for you, if we're looking for a specific text, we can do that.
Looking for a specific what?
Text, for example, or specific email, we can go to that, say app, for example, and look for it without it being.
Well, first of all, you got to remember the basic rule. I think that this is such an improvement over what we had. The basic rule in student searches is it has to be reasonable at its inception, its scope, and its benefit. So if you're looking for text, you have to have some reason to do it. Okay. So if there's if it violates a rule or law or something like that, yes, we can look for that specific text. But if you're looking for a text, what you should not be doing is looking through photo gallery. Okay. Now, if for some reason, looking through the text, there is additional reason to be suspicious that there is a photo that violates school, then you can do it. But the key thing about it, the key to constitutionality in a student search is that you need a reason to proceed to each step. And so, you can look for a specific text, but unless, say, the text says, oh, by the way, took some new pictures of in the bathroom of so-and-so, and you're in my camera, that would certainly give you a reason to look over this. Absent something like that, you need to stay with what you're looking for in conception.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if you should also have like some kind of a form that goes with this. What were you looking for? Were you looking for text? Were you looking for pictures, suspicion of drugs or guns? Something like that. Just so it's very clear what the documentation is. So when it comes back and we go through a hearing process or whatever, it was this is why we did it, and that's where we went. So then if there is that question of looking, well, why did you go here or why did you go there? Okay, then there can also be the chain of we were looking through the text and based on the text we did this.
I'd say that might be something that in terms of the documentation might be more appropriate for the administrative process.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. But I think that's all that should be referenced as part of it.
What we will do next is we will move on to review policy 707.1, the use of district facilities for before and after school child care purposes.
Sure. Okay, as the board knows, we entered into agreement at the start of this past school year with Lehigh Valley Children's Center to offer before and after school care in the elementary schools. So we had a one-year agreement with them at that time, as our policy indicated that we were to start with a one-year agreement with any provider. Mr. Reinhardt and I have met with the Lehigh Valley Children's Center periodically through the year and have maintained communication with them and have been very pleased with the services that they're providing. They conducted a survey in November and found very high levels of satisfaction with from the parents that are using their service. So we would like to, at an upcoming board meeting, present a new agreement. But in that agreement, which we would be recommending as a 3-year agreement, as the policy states, after the first year you can recommend a 3-year agreement. But with that, there are some suggestions for the current policy in its current form so that we can include additional provisions in the new agreement. One of the main thing, and it is on page 4 of 10 of the policy, would be the schedule. We initially had that the before and after care program would only operate before or after school on days that the school district is scheduled to be in session. The families that have commented on the survey have indicated a great need for or see a great benefit in having the service be available on other days as they could be delineated by the superintendent. So the other days that, to give an example, would be the days in between, over the winter break, in between Christmas and New Year. Currently, we don't offer care because those are not scheduled school days, but parents still have a need for care on those days. So if we were to be able to open our facility to the provider, because the facility is already open, that is something that parents have stated that they could see great benefit in. Beyond that, Mr. Reinhardt, I know during the process of suggesting or selecting a provider, had inquired about the potential for a provider to open in one of our buildings in the summer months. Everything that we're reading and studying suggests that the more time that we can have students be in a school setting during those out-of-school times, whether it be during summer or before and after school, the greater the benefit that it has on student achievement. So the Lehigh Valley Children's Center did conduct a survey more recently, in the more recent months, to parents, I believe last month, to see if families would be interested in that type of service. And of the 133 families that responded to the survey, with a total of 195 children, those families did indicate that they would see great benefit in having the provider stay open in one of our schools in the summer months. So that would be 195 of our students that are currently maybe not receiving any type of care in one of our schools. So that is a suggestion that we have in the new policy under schedule on page 4, would be that the schedule for the program shall be determined by the superintendent or designee and provided to the before and after school program supervisor by May 1st of the prior school year. The schedule may include care during the summer months at the discretion of the board and the superintendent, and that all of the applicable fees would be applied as well in the summer months. But that is something that prior to entering into a new 3-year agreement, we wanted to suggest this policy change so that if the board sees the benefit in having the provider operate in the summer, then we could include that in the upcoming agreement. One thing with that would be that we would only be operating that at one location. So I don't know if that would change how many of the parents who have responded to the initial survey, because it may not be the child's elementary school, but we wouldn't be operating it in all 7 schools. We would only be operating it in one so that they can utilize the same staff, and also we could hold it in a school with air conditioning. So we would be thoughtful to that as well. But really that's the only major change to this policy, but it would change our practice a bit to extending it beyond just before and after school care, and allowing that schedule to be determined by Mr. Reinhardt in consultation with the board.
Questions, comments?
They have asked us to be sensitive to the May 1st date for them in terms of a next contract, because they're in the process now of trying to put their programming together and staffing together for next year. So that's what we'd like to do. And I think the timeline that we have set out would be one that works well for them as well as for us, I think.
John, are you going to send us a copy of the contract before you present it?
I certainly
Yes, I
can.
am. Yes. We didn't make any changes to the contract until we knew if the policy would be
Right.
would be moved forward, and then we can make those changes accordingly.
Did everyone get that email that was sent regarding the taxing implications of the policy?
I really look at that, Dominic, and that's something we really don't have to be concerned about. We're not granting leases here, these are licenses. And although the point made in that has some validity, it's really misplaced in the situation. It says I'm legally concerned.
So we'll move to vote next week.
That's the recommendation. The board is comfortable
They're
with
okay
that.
with it, sure. And we'll move on and with the whole business. And I know a lot of parents, and I'm sure a lot of students in the district will be happy to know that they'll be able to plan for this next year and over the summer.
All right. With that, let us move on to Mr. Seminato, who will present to us on policy 16 regarding audio and video monitoring.
Okay, thank you. With the purchase of the new audio video equipment for the buses, obviously it was time to look at our policy that we haven't really addressed in some time. And essentially, it was updated by our attorney with all the new applicable laws. But just to make note that when we're up and running, what we're trying to do with this policy is we will be posting in each vehicle signs as required. We will be sending notification to all parents each year that the equipment, the video equipment is now audio as well. And the only other major point in the change, or just for note, that audio monitoring is not allowed on premises or school premises. So in the paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, beginning with the word balancing, it specifically states that only video on the school grounds. Any questions?
So we're looking to move that to include audio.
Yes. The cameras are almost all complete. That's the installation.
I gotta get it in this. Any questions? Comments of the policy? So do we have any public to be heard on policy agenda items?
Hello. My name is Ronnie Delbaco from Easton. Mr. Reinhardt, the LCD concert was fantastic. I hope you're feeling better.
Great. Terrific. Glad you did.
A couple points about the policy for searching students. And I won't repeat what I said last time, Mr. Seminato, just for you. I have a question about the policy not strictly forbidding staff from strip searching students. I don't think it would be too much to ask that those types of searches be conducted by police. If an item is believed to be concealed that deeply, it's not an immediate threat to that student or the other students. And I think that detaining that student until the police can arrive and make sure that the student's Fourth Amendment rights are protected is the best option. I would like to see a strict sentence in there forbidding staff from strip searching students. I don't think there's a reason if what you're considering or what you suspect to be reasonable is that deeply concealed, that a staff member of the district needs to perform a strip search. I think the police can do that and make sure that the students' rights are protected. Also, who makes the determination on what is considered reasonable? A rogue staff member that wants to take a girl into the room and take clothes off? It's a reality that we live with in the school district. There are teachers that get in trouble for it, there are staff members that get in trouble for it. I just saw something in the paper today about an allegation of a staff member at the middle school, at the Axon School. So, I'd like a definition, a more clear definition on what is considered reasonable and who makes that determination. Also, the section down near the bottom, even if there are no items that were originally part of what was supposed to be searched for, I'd like to know why you would keep other items if they weren't originally being searched for. If the items aren't part of the original search criteria. And one last thing is who would make the determination as to whether or not items are criminal? Is it a staff member or is it going to the police officer? If there's somebody who's a professional that's there to make the determination if something is criminal, then it should be a police officer, not a staff member. I don't think a staff member should, well, let me say it this way, I don't think staff members in the school district are trained to make those determinations on what items are criminal and what items are not, in accordance with keeping evidence. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public to be heard on policy meeting agenda items? Seeing none. Do we have one? I'm sorry. Please sign in.
Littleton, Mason. I, again, probably following a lot of Mr. DeLocco's concerns. One of the other concerns I also have is where you mention about searches on consent. When you're dealing with children who are not as wise in the way of the world or necessarily all of the laws that protect them, how much strong-arming is going to be done in order to gain that consent of a child without a parent or guardian present? I don't feel that you can honestly perform a search with consent without the parental guidance or legal guidance there and present. Also, when it comes to the electronics, how do you intend to handle that when you come upon a student who has a locked cell phone? So this way, if somebody claims a student has something on their phone, well, you're going to seize it. Again, that's a violation of constitutional rights, unlawful search and seizure. There's a reason it's unlawful search and seizure. It's one of the biggest things that's been going around lately. By strip searches and other things of this nature, and seizing a child's phone or whatever else in their possession, you have full right to do a search of a locker that is school district property. Everything that a child brings onto school and leaves with is their property. Backpack, cell phone, whatever. You have no right to that without a search warrant. I'd like to know how you feel the laws do not apply to school when this comes into play. There's a constitution to protect everybody from a newborn baby on up to somebody well into their hundreds. And that is to protect everyone equally. So, you're really, I think, grabbing at straws, reaching at straws. There are kids in the district, yes, that are problems. It's easier to get those kids out than to try and keep them in to further, your whatever you need for funding or whatever else. Get rid of them. If there's an issue, get rid of them. if you continue with this, you're also going to have the next problem, which is going to be profiling. Well, you pulled my child aside. Why? Because you're profiling them. And then what are you going to do? You're going to start searching and inspecting kids that are not fitting the profile, who you are randomly searching for no reason whatsoever. Now, where is that going to honestly end up? We're going to end up with the I Heart Boobies bracelet in court, and among other things, wasting more of our taxpayer money and solicitors' time, and it's just going to end up nowhere, and more dead, useless laws and rules in the books. This needs to be seriously rethought, kicked back to the beginning, and brought back with serious, realistic expectations and exact concerns to let the public know what your exact problems and why the concerns are there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Liz Alexander. I'm here for PTA Council, Area Council. I think that one of the things that would help is we do get a lot of questions from parents about the legal issue. How can the district do this, the constitution issue? And we sort of get into some talk about in local parentis and what that means in the school district and what the courts have upheld as far as why a school is a little bit different than maybe you outside in the community. And just as a parent organization, because I know we sort of do have these discussions and go back and forth, maybe at a certain point it might help parents to understand, I don't want to say that rights are different, but maybe to clarify for parents, what are the rights in the building, what are our rights once you're outside, and how does that factor into what, when you talk about searches and seizures of property, I think parents might benefit from understanding a little bit the way the law takes a look at those questions. So I'm just putting that out there, maybe not tonight, but just, looking ahead, is because this does keep coming up a lot. Parents want to know, what are my rights for my child? Will I be called? Should I be called? So, just to put out there, because as a parent, we do hear that concern a lot. So, thank you.
If I could say, Madam Chairman, I'd be happy to offer one of my lawyers who are in charge to come to the parent meeting. With the permission.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
And to speak from an understanding dialogue perspective, so that we're kind of,
donuts or something.
that's what we do. We always try to have a little sit down. That's our, thanks.
Make donuts, John.
Yeah.
John will help coordinate.
Thank you.
Let the record show that the solicitor has offered us legal services to make sure that we are all on the same page about these things and having questions answered for the community responding to these searches. Thank you, John, for that offer. We will, I'd say we need to get that scheduled.
Yeah.
The administration will work to put a time together. It will be advertised and processed accordingly. Any other comments on agenda items from the public about things we heard from the policy meeting? Alrighty, seeing none, we are moving 226 to next month's committee.
Correct.
For review with a thought about where we are on searches. We are moving 707.1 and 816 to the board meeting at the end of the month. And that concludes the policy meeting this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Okay, we're going to move on to buildings and grounds. So exciting stuff tonight. We have Alloy 5 and Dewey Engineering here to present on the Paxinosa School. And Jackie's here as well, who put a lot of this together. Thank you. I just want to say we've been working every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. And it's supposed to be 7 to 8, but we don't get out of here until 9 a.m. Putting this together to meet the deadline. So I want to thank the team. They've been really great. Bob has been sitting with us, and administration, and everyone here. So thank you guys. It's been really nice and really educational, enlightening, I should say.
Prior to sharing out the design of Paxinosa, we wanted to open the presentation with discussing the goals of the project from the outset. So as we started this process and knowing that we had a secondary building, a former high school that was repurposed to be a junior high and then a middle school and now ultimately an elementary school, that was one of our main goals for the process of this renovation project, was to create more of an elementary atmosphere within the school building. So that's been something that's been a focal point for us as we've gone through the planning phase. We've also wanted to be thoughtful about the layout and making sure that we appropriately group the students throughout the school building, knowing it's a 3-story building, a fairly large building as far as area goes. And so we were very thoughtful in the layout of maintaining the pre-K Head Start classroom near the kindergarten, first and second near one another, and then third, fourth, and fifth on the top floor. We also want to embrace the community school model. Paxinosa was recently named a United Way community school. So through the process of the design, we wanted to make sure that we dedicate space for Family Connection, who is our family center, so that they have their own office space within our building. And also just create some potential for increased community use down the line, knowing that there's such a value on out-of-school programming, whether it be before school, after school, summertime, and the opportunity for social services as well. So that was a focal point for just maintaining that community school model. As I said, we have the Head Start classroom within the building, so we wanted to make sure that we were able to fully integrate that pre-K programming so that we increase access to early learning for the families within the community. And also, we're cognizant of transforming the building into a 21st century learning space, so really making sure that the design is mindful of technology integration. So those were really the items that we focused on through the design process. And I will turn it over at this point to Randy Galliano of Alwood 5.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Amelia. We're going to give a presentation tonight. I'm going to start by going through the floor plans for public review. Jackie's going to speak to the interior. She's an interior designer. She's going to show you some really cool imagery of what the final product will look like. And then Josh is going to talk about some mechanical systems, electrical, plumbing, some budget items, and then he's going to end by talking about the next steps. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So, our first thought is everybody knows we have a very beautiful building. So we want to make sure we don't miss the fact that we are preserving the outside of the building. We don't build buildings like this today. We certainly don't want to do anything to compromise that historic detailing. We're making it more sustainable. We're shooting for a LEED Gold project that is sustainable for the future. Like was mentioned earlier, accessibility concerns. There's bathrooms that need to be brought up to code, water fountains, doorways.
Randy, I don't think most people would know about LEED, the LEED goal, what we're looking for there.
And Josh, I think we'll touch on that.
That's fine, but if we're going to mention things like that, we really should explain so people understand what it is we're referring to. So,
yeah.
It's an opportunity for us to try to make this building as sustainable as possible for the future, which is a very important element of all construction and all renovation projects now. We want to try to see if we can make this older space far more efficient in many ways and far more environmentally friendly, if you will, to everybody who's going to be there. Thanks.
So we are going to do some asbestos remediation. There's very, a small amount in the school now. And then we are going, we've strategically focused on modifications to your educational program and your educational specifications. And we limited site improvements to include parking and green space. We've talked about that a few times in many different public forums. So this is the first floor plan. It's the gym level plan. There are 3 floors to the building. Mrs. Emili has spoke about the pre-K, the Head Start classroom, which is located here. If you can see the laser, that's the brighter blue box. And then the lighter blue boxes are the kindergarten classrooms. Right now, those are kindergarten classrooms. We are building one more right here in an existing music classroom, so we have a cluster of 5. So those spaces will be brought up to code, renovated aesthetically, and really brought to modern standards, new casework, new furniture, those types of things. There's an old music classroom from when it was in the middle school, and we are going to keep that a music classroom for storage of instruments and things. We also have some support spaces. ESL offices will remain where they're at. They'll get an upgrade and special ed classroom here next to the kindergarten classroom. That's the brown, one of the brown boxes. Next slide. So the second floor, which is the main level, the first thing we're doing is improving security throughout the entire facility. We will enhance the man lock that was installed, I think, just a few years ago. You're going to see an image of how we are going to enhance that. Mrs. Emili mentioned central registration will be here. So when you walk in the building, to the right will be central registration. To the left will be the new main office. So if you're familiar with the building, it's the big locker cluster area when you first walk in. We're going to build new offices there for Mr. Vidge and his staff. The health office was recently renovated, and we're going to keep that. We're not going to touch that or waste what was done a few years ago. The cafeteria, which is the large orange box, will be renovated, and we're going to put in a completely new kitchen, which is a full working kitchen. Right now it's just a satellite type of kitchen, Roman kitchen. So with that comes some new coolers, all new kitchen equipment. There are a couple pieces that can be reused from the middle school, so we're going to make use of those. The media center, which is right in the middle of the existing library, right in the middle of the school, will be renovated. And if you're familiar with the low stack area where books are, we're going to actually build a new guidance suite within that stack area. That will free up space along the perimeter of the building for classrooms that can actually have windows. As you know, the existing building, there's a lot of interior classrooms that do not get natural light. I think it's safe to say that every room in the building now will have some form of natural light, whether it's a direct window outside or borrowed light from a hallway window. First grade is clustered similar to the kindergarten classroom. That's the light blue boxes down the lower left-hand side. Second grade is the darker blue. They're clustered as best as we could. There's the 2 up top that are built in the existing locker cluster. We're doing a lot with locker spaces. There's tons of lockers in this building, as you know, and every single one of them is orange. So you're going to see some images of what we're doing with those lockers that are built in the wall, and those that are clustered we're really using for program space. Family Connection is up there to the top with the red arrow that was mentioned earlier, and we're renovating the music classroom, which is just behind the stage. Obviously doing work in the auditorium that's limited to cosmetic and some lighting upgrades. Next slide. And then the third and final floor is 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. I'll start with 5th, that's the purple box. It's almost an identical footprint to 1st grade below. We're trying to keep things common, so things are nice and even. The art classroom, which is the large box above the cafeteria, we're going to make that a little smaller now that it's an elementary school, add a 3rd grade classroom, and then cluster the rest of 3rd grade there, which are the light blue boxes. We're going to keep the assistant principal's office the same and build 4th grade classrooms, which are the dark blue lights. Next slide.
Oh, wait, sorry. Projector.
The next slide is the site, which probably should have been the first. So the site plan I've probably presented 6 times in the past few months to the local planning commission and city engineer and the city forester. We've been through the planning process now with the city of Easton. The planning commission has blessed the proposed development, which is the 80 car parking lot being built behind the school for teachers' use. You'll see here there's a direct access to the classroom wing to the new parking lot. And you'll see the red dashed line is something that we want to emphasize. That's a fenced-in security line, so kids can play outside and be locked in that area during the day. And the modular classrooms, which you don't see in this picture here, those will be removed. And we're looking to open up the green space as a nice big community lawn for the public to use when the school is not in session. Next slide. And I'm going to turn it over to Jackie right now. She's going to talk to you about some of the materials.
Hello. So I'm going to walk you through parts of the building that we're renovating. I've got some before pictures and then some after pictures, which are just computer renderings of what the space will look like. So this is as you come into the front door of the school. It's in the first vestibule. And when you walk in, to your right is the administration office, and to the left are some lockers. Next slide. So this is a rendering of the second vestibule. So the first vestibule is to your left. Straight ahead is the new administration office. And then behind you is the central ranch offices. And then beyond is the corridor and an entry feature wall. So each of these doors are going to have locking mechanisms on them, so you'll have to get buzzed in to each space for safety. But we're also keeping a lot of transparency, so people in the offices can see the people in the vestibules. Next slide. And this is a photograph of the hallway at the entrance inside the building. To your left is the entrance, and then to the right is the current health suite. Next slide. And this is a rendering of how we're going to remove the floor right at the entrance. All the rest of the places we're going to keep the existing floor. But this area we're going to remove the floor and create a neutral pattern with this same exact material. And then we're going to carve out part of the wall to create a feature wall to promote the plaques and some other graphics that are fun for the students to see as they come in. We're also keeping the front part of the building right here, predominantly red colors, the Easton school colors. And this is a hallway on the first floor that connects the pre-K classroom to the kindergarten classrooms. And this is a pretty abysmal hallway in the building, no natural light. It's very white, washed out with the orange lockers. And so this is an example of how we're going to remove the lockers and infill the space with something fun. So these are little buildings that we're going to add into the locker alcoves and flush them out. They'll be referencing those different buildings in Easton, like the Cradle Factory and Silk Mill and houses. So the kindergartners and pre-kindergartners can go in them. They're very shallow, only a foot deep, but they can use their imaginations. They can play in small groups. They can have an entire class out there. So very colorful and fun for the kids. This is, again, on the first floor. This is the current music room, and we are going to turn this into a kindergarten room and then open up the other side of the wall. Next slide. So this will be as you're coming down and walking towards the kindergarten wing, and we'll have a really wide hallway here. So we're going to raise the ceiling on the right side and then build a wall in the middle to create a room within a room that's going to look like a house. So again, going back to using the kids' imaginations, having a space for a class to be in the hallway but not be in everyone's way, contain the students, have windows for the kids to see each other from inside to outside, and then also a teaching area. And this is the library as it looks today. And then in the library, we're going to replace the carpet. We're going to reuse the stacks. We're going to move them into the two-story space. We're going to reuse the existing furniture. But this is going to be just a revitalized media center. And then this is an example of an existing current classroom. In the new classrooms, we're going to have new flooring, brighter, more colorful. We're going to have new cabinetry and storage to meet all the teachers and student storage needs. And then we're going to have a whiteboard, which is going to be a smart board from a wall-mounted projector above the whiteboard. And that's it. We're doing other things too, but this is just what I've done during stuff.
Thanks, Jackie. So this happens every meeting. Randy and Jackie get to present really nice, cool photos and renderings and architectural details. And I get to talk about toilets and budgets and numbers that people just kind of roll their eyes at. So from the MEP upgrades, MEP mechanical, electrical, plumbing, basically these systems are now over 30 years old, actually over 40 years old, inefficient, prone to failure. So pretty much throughout the entire building, it's a complete replacement of HVAC systems, of plumbing fixtures. We're trying to reuse as much piping as possible to save as much cost as possible. However, we do need to replace certain things in their entirety. There's currently a portion of a sprinkler system, a wet pipe sprinkler system, that will be extended throughout the entire building, so the building will be fully sprinklered. Mostly LED lighting fixtures, which are extremely energy efficient, to replace the fluorescent fixtures throughout the building. So not only is it going to look good, but it's going to function very well for a long time, and it's going to be very energy efficient. So for the budget overview, last month the board approved the submission of PlanCon Part D. PlanCon is the process that we go through with the state, the Department of Education. Part of that process involves some state reimbursement, which is money coming back. One of the steps in that process, Part D, is actually giving them the projected budget up to that point. So currently we're on track with a construction cost of just under $18.8 million, including soft costs, which would be fees, design fees, contingency, financing fees. We're looking at another $3.9 million for a total estimated cost at the time of $22,748. Okay, we do expect to get PDE reimbursement of about $3.4 million. Some of which will be coming back through the LEED process, and I'll talk a little bit more about the LEED construction process in the next slide. So LEED construction, it's leadership in energy and environmental design. That's what LEED stands for. And it's basically a third-party certification process which helps you understand how green, how energy efficient is your facility. There are levels that go from certified all the way up to platinum, and we're targeting gold, which is just below platinum. So obviously, it speaks to sustainability, to energy efficiency, to cost savings, but there are two other really good reasons why it's a good idea to pursue LEED for this particular project. First of which is a grant opportunity through the state, through the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Financing Authority currently has a grant program open until April 1st, where if you apply and if you are approved and you meet LEED Gold, there's a reimbursement of up to $2 million through that program. We have been successful in getting that grant for other school district lines in the recent past, so we're confident that we can get it again for Easton. And again, that would be up to $2 million of the project cost. There's additional PDE reimbursement for lead construction. For PDE reimbursement, you only need to hit the silver level, which, if we're going for gold, we can certainly hit silver at least. That would be for an additional approximately, I think it was $500,000 just for PDE additional reimbursement. So in total, we'd be looking at a net savings of approximately $2.2 million. There are some premium costs with going with lead construction, some additional design work, just the submission of the documents to the agency that reviews it. There are some fees there. However, if you're looking at a net savings of up to $2.2 million, it's a slam dunk to go for it. So looking at the milestone schedule, currently, as Randy had mentioned, we do have the City of Easton Planning Commission approval. There's one final step with the zoning board that we need to hit next week. We've been through a couple iterations with them already, so we're confident that that approval will come with no hiccups. The next step in the PlanCom process would be for the March 22nd meeting, which is next week, to approve the submission of Part F. And Part F is basically an updated room schedule and program layout that the state reviews. They have an architectural consultant who will sit down, review that submission. We'll have a conference call with Alloy 5 and with the district to review those forms. But everything is on track with getting that submitted and approved. A couple other dates. The ACE grant submission, which I just talked about, is due April 1st. We do plan to have a pre-bid meeting. That would be with the contractors who are actually going to bid the construction work of the project. We sit down with them. We go through slides. We give them the scope of work ahead of time, so that when they get the documents, that thick stack of documents that they're going to actually put their numbers together based off of. They have a pretty good idea going into it, what the scope of work is, what the parameters are. So that is targeted for April 6th. We'll receive bids back from those contractors on May 3rd. A couple other steps in the process before we can actually start construction. We'll have the board approve a couple other PlanCom documents and award the bids for that construction at the May 24th board meeting. By that time, we'll be getting contracts started with the contractors, and hopefully by June 1st, we can actually issue them a formal notice to proceed with construction. So they start to get their clearances together, their submittals for equipment, and that's basically their formal notice that this is happening. We're starting construction, so that's kind of the kickoff point. And we're looking for June to July this year into July of next year for the construction phase, so that we're ready to go at the end of summer 17 to get everybody back and get started. So again, for next Tuesday's meeting would be the acknowledgement of the previous two PlanCom forms that were sent, the approval of PlanCom F, and the formal authorization to go out to bid for the project. So I will be sending Ally the actual resolutions that would go with that board meeting next week.
Thank you, guys. I just want to say, thank you again for all your hard work. This team has been very in a room, like I said, every Wednesday morning, and we've been really cost conscious on this project. We know how important it is, and you know how exciting all the new features are. But I just want you to know we've had 3 or 4 redesigns just to make sure that we were within some budget scope. So, and I also want to thank Mr. Vidge, who's not here tonight, and his staff for helping. A lot of these renovations in the classrooms and things that we needed to do and change were based off of the teachers and the staff at Paxinosa. So I really want to thank them and their feedback. They had to turn around some quick meetings so that we had information very quickly. So I want to thank you all again. Okay, I don't think, is there anybody from the public regarding the buildings and grounds? Jody? Anybody from the board?
Just coming back on, some of the things that I remember hearing is that this project was at 17 million in the beginning, and I don't even know if it was something before that, but now I'm looking at this and we're at 22 million. So I'm just trying to understand what the first go-around was for the pricing of what we were estimating for this, and now we're at 22 million, so that's, go ahead.
I think sometimes people confuse construction costs with project costs. So when you look at the $17 million number, it's probably red being construction costs, and then add the soft cost in, and then brings it up to 20 million. So Josh took the budget, so
Yeah, and also, just keep in mind, we do have a contingency line item in there.
Absolutely, I get it. I've worked for an engineering group, so
Okay.
I get it. I understand all that. I'm just sort of even looking at the comparison of, okay, is this from being, from when was this one here? This is 18 million. The one I'm looking over here is 19 million. We're seeing up there 22 million. So I'm just trying to get an understanding of the different costs. Is that where we started out at? Like when this was first presented, what amount were we given of what the estimate would be?
Well, there were some things in some of the line items that had to be adjusted and changed.
Right, and I understand that, and that's what I'm trying to understand is where did we start out at? What changes were made? I guess if you can give me that information, we don't need to discuss it here, but I'm looking at is where did we start out at? What changes were made to get us to that 22 million? Do you have an idea of what the board was presented when they started talking about renovating the project?
When it first started, I can tell you that programmatically was much different than where we are now. We weren't looking at changing the location of classrooms. They weren't going to include. They weren't. So I think the layout and the function of the building would have been much different than how it is now and how I think it needs to function for an elementary school.
And that's what I'm trying to understand. That's what I'm trying to understand is where we started out, what changes were requested or made to get us to the 22 million. That's all I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
We had some
I'm sorry, that's not a short answer right now.
No,
but
and that's fine. I'm just putting it out there that
I think we can, back at one of those meetings where we're talking about the $18 million number, I think we can look at that itemization that was presented, look at where we're at now, and I don't think it would be too much work to just see where that increased and what.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that, like I said.
$22 million right now to me, and we did this with March, we did it with what's now Shawnee, and we put a lot of money into it, so I'm just trying to make sure that I understand, because we also have other elementary schools like Cheston and Palmer and those, and so I'm just trying to understand as we're moving forward, some of the things that we might be looking to do, where we were going from and where we're going to, and it's $22 million. To me, I want to make sure that it's being fiscally responsible. That's all I'm asking.
I think we can show you where that changed.
Okay. And you don't mind if it's okay if I contact him to ask the questions? He's probably the best one to answer it, I'm guessing?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Anything else? So in summary, we'll look at some costs and make sure we get those to the rest of the board. We've got the final designs that were up, and again, thank you, Jackie, for all your hard work. I know you put this together for us last minute. And we look forward to keep meeting the milestones in the schedule. So far, we haven't slapped up any of that, so hopefully we get the final tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. And we look forward to keeping everybody updated. Hopefully we'll have another report in April so that everyone can see more of the timelines and budget numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to move on to Number 5, which I've added to the agenda tonight, is finance. Up.
And I think that we have 2 items. Mike, did you have something on the budget for the building, showing how the funding was done?
Yeah, I did. Let me just show a quick refresher on where we're at. If you recall back when Mr. Foltz was here, we talked about the money that we had for quite a while left over on our capital project was $11 million. We did, the board approved refinancing for the tax projects of an additional $10 million, giving us $21 million. Even though that number was 22 with the money reimbursed from the state, it would still fall under our line of finances. The new loan, and just so we're aware, we're going to start paying next year. The new loan debt obligation increase will be made up through all of the proceeds from all the refunding we did over the last 3 or 4 years. And again, total picture, I think I need to make this very clear. I think we did 4 or 5 refunding in the last few years, saved over the life of the debt to the district about $11 million. So we also plan to come next fall with another plan for refunding. We also backloaded the payment schedule, so we wouldn't have the impact right away in our current budget, because our annual debt obligation is still in the 13-14 million. In year 9, the last 3 years of this 11-year loan is where the big number will hit. But at that time, we will also significantly be reducing our debt obligation for that year because other bonds are paid off. So it's basically a cost neutral with respect to the annual budget obligation by doing this.
Any questions for Mike? Okay, the only second item, last 2 months ago or a month ago, we heard the community college presentation. We had tabled any discussion on that budget before we put it onto the agenda. Just wanted to follow up tonight. If there's any other questions or anything, other than that, we would put that on also for the agenda next week.
Could I add one item, or one comment at least toward the community college? I had conversations with Dr. Erickson this past fall about community college and its relationship with the school district and what they're able to do for our students. And one of the things that he told me he was going to check into at my request was an opportunity to try to reduce the dual enrollment rates that our students pay as they enroll in the community college courses while they're at Easton High School. And I'm happy to say that he responded to that admirably by including us into a grant proposal that I believe is going to it looks very favorable that we're going to receive, that Easton and Bethlehem, along with the community college, will receive support so that students attending our high schools will have an opportunity to pay a reduced and dual enrollment fee. And I think that's terrific, and I really appreciate the fact that they included Easton in this proposal, and we're looking forward to hearing very soon about the end result of that. But the important thing that I wanted you to know is I think the immediacy of his response to my request and their collective concern about trying to increase the number of students at Easton High School who can attend community college classes. I was very pleased with that.
I'm going to share something real quick. We had a principals meeting today.
Yes.
And Northampton Community College representatives were there. So
Yes.
we had a great discussion
Good.
with high school principals and talked about how they're waiving fees for our students and some grant opportunities. Catherine Norrie is from the foundation. We're
Yes.
partnering with them. So we're looking at scheduling and transportation. So I just wanted to put
Yes.
that out there.
Good, thank you.
So we're progressing.
Yep. So with that, I'll ask, is there any reason not to have it on the agenda this coming month for any questions? Seeing none, that'll be an item to move. Yep. And that concludes the finance group. So is there anybody in the public that would like to address any of the finance issues on the agenda? Seeing none, the summary is we'll be moving the community college budget onto the agenda, and that concludes the report.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, is there any miscellaneous items from the board or from? Okay, anyone from the public to be heard on non-agenda items? Now is your chance. Put the gavel on about 2 seconds. What up?
I'm from student council, so I'm supposed to give my report.
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely.
Or was it not for this? Next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, I'm sorry then.
You want to give us an update on something?
Carla Ramos is here. Outstanding young lady. He's going to give a board report.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. My president told me to come and just give the report. So, this month the freshman class is collecting class dues while the sophomore and junior class are planning a free fall fundraiser. And the senior class is busy with planning prom, which will be on May 28th at Steel Tax. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We are.
If I could just say something.
Yes, go ahead.
We went to see Cinderella, my wife and I, and I gotta say, I was blown away by those kids. That was a super play. I mean, that talent is incredible. I really was amazed, that it was a high school play. And I just want to give a shout out to those kids and that group that put that together. That was an excellent, excellent job.
Thank you. Any other comments? Motion to adjourn?
I just wanted to, you can come see Annie at the 7-8
Thanks a lot.
This weekend.
Why, go ahead, no.
Putting that out there.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn now? Second. Okay. Okay.